Now, this is just a short little video because you know how it is with lesson plans. I don't like to uncoil a huge library because if I start unfolding the library, which is like unfolding a tree, like a network, a tree trunk, right, of all this stuff that's coded in libraries as musical, which is frequency, which is code, mathematics, and all that, I'll never find my way back. Okay, because the libraries are just, and I'm not going to use the word infinite anymore. They're not limited, no boundaries, right, to creation. Creation energy is always trying to recreate something new that it hasn't experienced before. That's the natural spiral spin of the first acoustic, right? The first spiral, the first spin, the first eternal crystic star, right? So I was reminiscing. I do sort of a self-review because I am a musician. Consciousness that is playing music. Consciousness states that are naturally playing music because they're fused to experience the way that consciousness is playing music as spirits. Spirits play music in musical spheres. So I have, right? So when I was a little kid, my parents gave me a set of bongos. Hear that? That's the same thing as playing a piano. And so when I think of sets or acoustics, how many instruments can you play at once simultaneously? The frequencies, the codes of playing the music, right? So when I was a child growing up, I always wanted to have a big set, but I didn't have the time, to collect the money, the electrons in which to build a big, huge set because I love percussion instruments. I started out as a drummer, started out learning how to play the snare drum, the bass drum, then the mounted toms and the floor toms, the cymbals, the block, the coconuts, right? So what happens is you're simulating sounds that naturally are produced by consciousness, right? And this is when you get into what we call synthetic telepathy. Synthetic telepathy is real easy to explain, okay? When you see, for example, like use a group rush or anybody that's got an electronic sound synthesizer using a Metatronic signal, right? Okay, so what that means is they're using a sound synthesizer to communicate with us through the electronic sound, which is Metatronic sound, which is deadlight sound, okay? Which means the sounds that we're experiencing through the amplifiers, right, is synthetic. That's synthetic telepathy. Now we're experiencing the frequencies that represent the code, which represents the Metatronic spiral codes of synthetics, right? Which means it's not real because it's not real light. Consciousness, solar arcing, spiritual consciousness that is light, that is naturally playing music, right? And so you can see, for example, with the native spirits, the instruments that they produce, generate, and thus you hear the sounds that come from nature are not going to be the same as a synthesizer, sound synthesizer. Oh, we can reproduce that. That's what a sound synthesizer is. We can reproduce that sound. Or the electronic sound, which is electronic data, which is electronic data stream. So that's synthetic. Those are known as sound synthesizers, right? So I don't do that, okay? So to the extent to which I could produce instruments would naturally come from nature because nature, the natural spiral, is already playing music. Just like when you walk into a forest, right? I'm experiencing the music that the forest plays. And I'm not looking around and seeing anybody playing an organ that's plugged into an amplifier that's plugged into a wall socket, right? So we're natural musicians. We play natural music that is always in a state of harmony, always in a state of rhythm, always in a state of perfect balance. That means the waves of the music that we play is natural. Those are the natural codes. That's the Christic codes. Right? So we play different music. It's natural because of what it feels like. Right? So I always use this sort of as an example when I went to Hilo one night. I may have shared this before in another video. I was staying at a little, what is it called, a Hilo Bay hostel, and right across the street at a gas station, it's a big open area. On Friday nights, they would have bands, live bands that would play music there, right? So we're dancers. Spirits love to dance in all the vortexes, right? Experiencing the music that we all play together that's all in harmony together. So I would go down there, right, because I love to dance. And so one of the ways in which you can tell when you get into spiritual communication is when a band was up there playing music, does the music, which are the waves, which is the waveform plasma waves, lifting your spirit, which means, wow, those waves are moving me. And what's moving is the spirit, which is in motion. So when your spirit is in perpetual motion, playing music that is in perfect alignment, which is perfect balance, which is perfect harmony, which is perfect breathing tempo. Breathing tempo. So there are no errors playing music. That means we've learned how to play music with the first musician, which is the first teacher, which is Christos Sophia. Yeah. And when you're playing with instruments, you can get real creative. Now you're on fire because you realize that the energy that you're using is to play and create. Therefore, I'm sort of oblivious to everything else that is going around because the consciousness, which is the intention of my consciousness, by what I feel, which is the music that I'm playing, because I'm experiencing what I am playing music on the inside, which is the inner child. So I love to play music. So you realize the first musician is a creator spirit that is on fire to play music. So you'd be surprised what happens when you pick up an instrument, right? You will get fully absorbed. You know what it is about absorption, transpiration, right? Exhalation, right? And the absorption rate. And that's when we get into transmutation speed. Remember I mentioned that about I was experiencing every life form on the planet that was being consumed. The amount of emotional energy, which is emotional overload. Man, what's left? The intelligent side. Burn out the creative engine. Now you're into magnet splitting technology, right? Now you get assimilated in the intelligent side, which is the artificial intelligence side of things, and you don't know the difference between what you are, what it is. Now you are what it is. That's how assimilation takes place, which means now you're not creating anything. Whatever you thought that you created isn't really real at all. That's when you get into the illusion and the simulation side of things, right? You're not creating anything new, right? That's called a trap. That's called a consciousness trap with sound synthesizers, trying to duplicate what nature naturally does in playing the first music, which is the first mathematical codes of creation spheres. So we play with the original music, the first musician, Christos Sophia, the first teacher of playing music that is in perfect harmony, perfect rhythm, and perfect breathing tempo, so that we're experiencing eternal life creation spheres wherever we go, because that's what we are, an energy of spirits that play music that is in harmony. So the waves are in natural harmony with all the other waves. So we're not noticing any difference in the waves because there isn't any distortions in the music that we play. Okay? That means we're radio stars tuning into all the stars, right? So that all the stars are experiencing the love of music from the first star. So the first star communication, which is the first signal, which is the EFI field, is communicating to all the other stars. So now all the other stars are experiencing being loved by the first eternal star. It's on fire to play music. Water tables, mathematical water tables, hydrolathes. Yeah. Have a beautiful day. Be good to yourselves. Be good to ourselves together.